The definition of warrior leadership is, I have found my purpose in the world. I have learned how to bring my purpose to others. I am living my purpose, leaving nothing on the table, nothing untried, living my someday goals as now. Welcome to the Warriors at Work podcast, hosted by Jennifer Balcom, president of E9 Corporate Coaching, where we help you become a warrior at work so that you get to fully live.
Hey everyone, welcome to the first official Warriors at Work podcast. Yay! It's so exciting to finally be doing this and have a way to speak to you all on a regular basis now that I've gotten to that point in the development of my company. Today, we are talking about this adorable quote that my cousin's young son made, who is 4 years old, who said, "No one's giving me grace and they didn't even ask me if I had a good nap." This is in a house with his brother and sister and mother and father and grandfather and grandmother, where he has been for over a week. And there are some things that start to happen in that kind of an environment that is also relevant to what's happening in our work environment right now. So I'm going to tell you a few personal stories that will tie back to and be illustrative of what we're dealing with in our work environments right now. When I was in college, my great aunt died, my great aunt Kate. And she was sort of the matriarch of the family. She had been around forever. She was very present in everyone's lives. And she passed away, not in a tragic way, in a way that was a little bit like it was time. It was a little bit early, but it was almost time. And we were making plans for her funeral, and I was in college, and we were deciding if we were all going to go or not, and looking at my schedule of exams and things like that. And I was on the phone with people, as happens when a family member like that passes away, and everyone was asking me how I was doing. And I kept saying, I'm fine. I loved her. She was part of the family, but she lives in another state, and I didn't see her all the time. So so I'm sad that she died, but it doesn't feel like my whole life just dramatically changed. And this went on for several days. And one day I went into the refrigerator in my kitchen and opened up the fridge and noticed that I was out of Diet Coke and started crying. And realized that I was not crying about the Diet Coke, that in fact, I wasn't quite as fine as I thought, or maybe it had just hit me in that moment, or maybe it had been slowly building, kind of under the surface. And I discovered that I really wasn't crying about the Diet Coke. I was crying because I wasn't quite as fine as I thought I was. The second story I want to share with you happened yesterday. I have 2.5 dogs that live with me. 2 of them are medium-sized dogs, about 65 pounds, and one is a 20-pound dog. So I always tell people that I have 2.5 dogs. And after spending a lot of time in the house with them recently, there was a moment that they all approached me at the same time wanting to go outside, and one kind of jumped up in my lap, which is unusual, and the other put her front paws off on me and started howling in my face. And all of a sudden my blood pressure just spiked. It was just too much at one time. It was really irritating, and I kind of shoved them off of my lap. And my little dog fell over on her back with a thud on the floor, and I felt terrible and bent over and picked her up and petted her to make sure she was okay. And luckily, dogs are so fast, so quick to forgive, that I quickly Well, I was going to say I quickly got over feeling like a jerk. That's actually a lie. I spent the rest of the day feeling like a complete jerk for doing that to my little dog and feeling really guilty about it, like a really terrible dog mom. Um, but the dogs were okay. They were fine. And once again, what I realized in that moment is that for the last 3 weeks of being at home and working on my business, I have been mostly fine. I have been mostly really engaged in the work that I do, working on bringing these online courses to the world at a time where the world needs it and will really benefit from it. I've been deeply engaged in my warrior purpose and what matters to me and what that says about what I have to help the world right now. I've been doing a lot of thinking about that. I've been taking a lot of action about it. It's been really rewarding. And I noticed in that moment that I had this response to my dogs, simultaneously to having my blood pressure spike and have this response to my dogs. I instantly asked myself in that moment, what had just caused that response from me? What caused my blood pressure to spike? And I realized that I've probably had low-level anxiety building. Yes, I'm working in my purpose. Yes, I am loving this work that I do. Yes, I am genuinely committed and at a sprint to bring this to the world, to do what I can to help. And at the same time, what I've been sort of not seeing or not realizing is that there's some low-level anxiety that's been building that just came out in that moment. There are times that we are having an emotional response, but we either don't know it or we don't want to deal with it. So it happened when my Aunt Kate died and I ran out of Diet Coke. And it happened when my dogs came up to me in a way that they do fairly often, and suddenly my blood pressure spiked. There are moments like that that I realize either I've been avoiding something or I haven't been avoiding it. I just didn't know it was there. I didn't see it until that moment that I realized there was something that had been slowly building. Different people deal with this kind of circumstance differently. They deal with this kind of emotion differently. The last story I'm going to tell you is when my grandmother died. I don't know, 8 years ago maybe? I think it was about 8 years ago. I was in the hotel room as they turned off life support with my aunt and uncle and another uncle and my mother and my cousin. And my aunt cried and talked about it. She was really focused on taking care of the people around her. So she was sad. She was showing emotion. She was also helping to manage the people around her and what they needed from the situation. My cousin mostly prayed, again, out loud to the group, not to herself, not in her head, but out loud. My uncle wanted lots of information, lots of facts. So he wanted to know exactly how the whole process worked to turn off the life support and exactly what would happen after that. Probably because, I don't know for sure why that was his response, but probably because he wasn't ready to deal with emotions yet. My other uncle was mostly quiet and really didn't say much other than to answer direct questions briefly. I was quiet. I was dealing with my emotions about it, but just doing it on my own. I was just feeling it internally. And the reason I tell you this is because you'll notice in this circumstance, some people were talking. Some people had an increased need to talk. I had a decreased need to talk. Some people were feeling emotion. Some people were not feeling emotion. Some people were trying to avoid feeling emotion and going really into the facts of it all. This is what we are dealing with at work right now. You may find in your teams at work that there are some people who are making a really big deal about being out of Diet Coke. They may be making a really big deal about circumstances that seem not critical. Maybe to them it's a big deal to be working from home. Maybe they really hate Zoom and want to know why they're not using another platform. Maybe they really want to know, how they're supposed to turn in that report that was due, or something that seems fairly obvious to figure out. Maybe they're asking a ton of questions for information, like my uncle did, wanting to know exactly how the processes are going to work and exactly how everything's going to get done. And it could be a way for them to not want to deal with whatever the emotion is that they're feeling about our current life circumstances right now. So just notice that everyone that you're working with in your group, first of all, will have a different response to what everyone is going through right now. People like change. Some people like change. Some people don't like change. There are different Myers-Briggs personality types about this. Some people enjoy change. Some people really want lots of information, and wanting lots of information might be because it's their personality type, or it might be because they're trying to not be managing their emotion while they're working. So just notice that the people in your group that you're working with, and this also includes your clients, are all dealing with something right now. Some people may be processing dramatic emotion out loud, and they may think it's preposterous to try to talk about anything else. So know that a lot of what you're sensing, what you're seeing in people, what you're hearing from people right now is not actually about work. They may say it's about work, and here's what's true, they may really think it's about work. Like me thinking I was fine until I ran out of Diet Coke. Like me thinking I was fine until my blood pressure spiked when my dogs came and jumped up on me. Just know that people may actually think they're fine, and they may really not realize that they've got something else going on under the surface. And if they do realize they have something going on under the surface, they may be ready to talk about it or not ready to talk about it. They may be trying not to talk about it and just get through their day. They may find work to be a welcome distraction. And what is important right now is to give people grace. As my adorable cousin's son said, no one's giving me grace, and they didn't even ask me if I had a good nap. This is happening for everyone right now. Giving everyone a little grace and a little space is what's needed and is the best approach for this month. I'll be doing podcasts daily for this week, and then I'll switch to a weekly schedule. But for right now, there's a lot of content and help that I wanted to get out to people as everyone navigates these very unknown waters. So have a great week. Have a great day. And I'll speak with you tomorrow.